I've been reprimanded for genuinely wanting to help the victim. 5 confessions from anonymous strangers. The last one will change how you see people in authority. My younger brother died a couple of years ago. His cat still mourns him. Our household had 2 cats at the time. One cat was the family cat, but the other cat, Edward, obviously loved my brother more than anyone. They'd always cuddle together on the sofa and Ed would always be at his side. Ed loved me too, but it was obvious it wasn't the same. When my brother died, Edward was a wreck, as was the rest of the family. He would wait outside my brother's door, crying for him. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, after crying myself, only to find Edward sitting in my brother's empty bedroom looking downward. He'd seem to endlessly cry for my brother. And it was apparent that he knew what had happened. He seemed to know my brother had died. He knew he wasn't coming back. The silver lining, though, is that Edward still loves my brother, even several years later. He sits right beside my brother's altar, resting his head on the box of his ashes. Sometimes, I'll see him staring at photos of my brother. His eyes will be incredibly focused on the photos and he'll rest a paw on them. He doesn't do this to any other photos. I have a friend who is about the same height and weight as my brother and shares some traits. When he would come visit, Edward knew it wasn't him, but that kind of person is the type he loves. Edward instantly snuggles up to him. He loves being around tall adolescent guys. I think they remind him of my brother. When I'm with Ed, I remind him how much I love him and I hold on to him for hours. He's a simple cat, a little dumb, he drools, but he's the most emotionally intelligent animal I've ever seen. I love him endlessly. He's helped me a lot. He so plainly loves and misses my brother. He's doing a lot better and no longer crying every night for my brother. He's enjoying life but leaving time to remember his favorite guy. It pushes me forward. Because if a cat can love and properly, healthily mourn, then so can I. Somebody replied, I feel sorry for people who say animals don't have feelings, because they can't have experienced that pureness of an animal's trust. When my dad died in our home, my dog insisted on paying him her respect, so we let her inside the room where he was put in until the hearse arrived. We left them alone for a while. She was devastated for months afterwards and would never leave my mom's side. I've realized that being a regular at a bar sucks. I normally show up at the exact same time after work to what I thought was unwinding. Today I showed up 3 hours later than I usually do and all the other regulars were either tipsy or drunk. I didn't see this before because I was previously tipsy or drunk by this time. I realized that these people aren't really my friends and that I have had a better time playing video games or watching Netflix instead of immediately going out. And honestly, I feel stupid for taking a lift here just to be surrounded by people on a whole different plane than myself. The pandemic was tough on me and I leaned on a local gay bar for social interaction after work, but I don't think I want to do that anymore after showing up late, and seeing through a sober lens who the other regulars are after a few drinks. I'm on the patch and quitting smoking and don't need alcohol to trigger me to want to smoke right now anyway. I don't mean to say anything negative against other bar regulars or dive or gay bars, but I think I'm happier doing my own thing alone for now at this point, in a positive way. Somebody replied, the transition from who you are, into who you're going to be, is going to take time no matter what, and that's not because who you are now is lacking but because it would take anybody time to change things such as their habits or traits. What sets you apart is your desire for change. Keep that flame lit and don't stifle it with pressure. You won't be able to remember every moment of life, but the way you felt during these times will be recorded in a way onto your physical and mental self. So do what you know you like, do what makes you happy, and do what is right, and I mean that in all sense of the word. Right for you, right for others, your life, all that. Just remember to give yourself time to relax. Let these lessons and new self settle in. Don't overextend. You'll be okay. Just remember, it'll take time and it's okay. I sent a kid to the psych ward in elementary school, but I didn't realize it until years later. This story still kind of messes with me. I haven't really told anyone about it, but I just randomly thought about it and decided to get it off my chest because I don't really have anyone else to tell. So this happened when I was in elementary school, gym class to be specific. That particular day, the teacher had brought out the climbing rope. Only one person could be on it at once, so we formed a line, and we were all sitting down until our turn for some reason. I was sitting behind this kid named Ethan. Or at least, I think that's what his name was. I started talking with him, and the conversation started out pretty casual. But quickly, he started rambling about his parents and his home life. I don't remember exactly what he was saying about that. I just remember he was talking about it. After he was done rambling about that, he looked me dead in the eye and said something along the lines of, "Sometimes I think I should just end myself." Do you ever feel that way? Me, being in 2nd or 3rd grade at this time, was appalled by this question. But wait, it gets worse. He took his hands, wrapped them around his neck, and started squeezing. He momentarily removed his hands to mumble the words, "Try it. It feels good." Then he continued. He kept squeezing his neck until he was visibly out of breath. Then he let go and continued the conversation. This whole thing was a huge mind breaker, especially because I was so young. It lingered on my mind a lot that day. After school, I told my mom about this whole interaction, and she seemed visibly worried. But I couldn't quite understand why. Because I was really young, I didn't necessarily understand that this wasn't normal. But I kind of had a feeling. The next day, my mom stayed after school when she came to pick me up. And she talked to my teacher. After that, he didn't show up to school for weeks. He eventually came back for about a week. Then he moved away. Everyone, including me, just kind of forgot about him. I didn't realize until I was older that I probably got that kid sent to a psychiatric facility. Considering that teachers are mandated reporters. That poor kid must have seen some awful things to already want to off himself at such a young age. I can't help but wonder what or who was making him feel this way. Ethan, if you're reading this, I really hope you're doing okay. My best friend just ended himself. He came from a party very drunk and very high, called me and told me he loves me and that he's sorry, all while sobbing hysterically. Then he hung up. I started panicking. I called him up everywhere I could, phone number, Discord, Snapchat, he didn't pick up. Fast forward about 8 hours, I saw him online, so I calmed down, as I realized he can't be dead and online. No response though. Fast forward maybe 5 hours, I saw him online again, and messaged him, no response. I panicked, but managed to fall asleep after a few hours, for maybe 3 hours. When I woke up, I received a message from my good friend informing me that he was no longer with us. I talked to him every day for 4 years. All day every day. I loved him so deeply. We played together, we talked together, we watched stuff together, we vibed together, in the morning, late at night, whatever the time, we were inseparable. We found each other's company so nice, we'd hang out even if we weren't talking. I'm hurting so bad. So bad. This is easily the worst day of my life. I'm in so much pain. It hurts. I've been sobbing ever since I found out. It's gonna hit me even harder later. I'm in so much pain. I want to die so badly. I hope that heaven is real, because if it is, you're definitely staying there. Even when my other friend died, you were there for me. You made me feel better. I hope you're enjoying heaven, and I hope you're watching over me. I'll give you a spiritual hug. You always cheered me up no matter how horrible my day was, even when I got declined by college, and was very sad. You still called me when I was on my way home and somehow made me so cheerful. You've turned me into a better person in every way. You made me get my life together, you gave me purpose, motivation, confidence, guidance, and love. I get that you were hurting, your life wasn't the greatest, the mental illnesses, not being able to get a real gender therapist, horrible parents, grandparents terminally ill, losing your pets, difficult examinations, chronic depression. I get that it was all too much and horrible, and I'm glad you're in a better place now, and I know it's selfish to say this, but god damn it, I wish you were here with me right now. I'd saw all my limbs off and throw away my entire future just so I can have you back. I miss you. I miss you very deeply, Valentine. I'm a cop. I don't like cops. I joined the police because I desperately needed employment since my bachelor's was basically worthless. I also thought I would be doing a job where I could make a positive difference in people's lives. Where I could look back on a day's work and say I've helped people, where work didn't feel absolutely meaningless and like a waste of my life but rather as a contribution. Boy, was I naive. There have been times where I felt like I truly did help someone out, but those were by far outnumbered by the times where I felt we as police were just screwing people over even further instead of helping. I've worked as a beat cop for about 3 years before it all got too much for me. I've been in a really awful family situation for years and it all culminated in 2021. The horrible things I've seen at work combined with said family situation, got me burnt out badly. I've had to stay home for a year on doctor's orders and I honestly still don't feel like I'm over it completely. Now, when I say I've seen horrible stuff, I don't mean gore or difficult situations. I can deal with that. What broke me was the absolutely toxic mentality and injustice done by the police. Orders that I couldn't comply with because they not only went against my own personal values, but are morally reprehensible altogether. I've seen children, 10 years old at most, put behind bars for being illegal immigrants. I've received and refused orders to take away a woman's 5-day-old baby because she smoked pot. I've seen a man completely break, all the light leaving his eyes, once he heard he was being deported back to Eritrea. Knowing full well he'll be tortured and probably killed himself as soon as he arrives. The man tried to end himself on the way to the airplane. I've been reprimanded for genuinely wanting to help the victim of severe and sadistic domestic abuse. Reason for the reprimand? They needed to question her with a translator under oath, which is way too much work and costs for some Albanian skank in a case that probably won't see court anyway. I've written a report about a kid we found, about 3 years old, whose mom had let him out to play in a park about 2 kilometers away. Alone. The kid was dressed in nothing but his undergarments, was filthy and stank of urine and detritus to all heavens. His home was a pigsty. Report didn't even come through, nothing was done about it. I've had a case where a mother went into psychosis, kidnapped her baby and threatened to drown herself with the baby. Her mom told us she would frequently stab her own arms with a fork and twist the baby's limbs to see how far she could go before the baby started to scream. When we finally found her, do you know what was suggested as a solution by my chief? Voluntary counseling with social services once a month. That's it. Nothing else. The general attitude towards domestic abuse is disgusting. It's rarely taken seriously by police. Honestly, the whole atmosphere was toxic. Lots of glorification of violence, eggplants drawn on the walls and posters, lots of bullying at work, machismo attitudes. Not to mention the racism, sexism and rampant extreme views. In the few years I've been one of the boys in blue, I can't count the number of self-inflicted deaths among colleagues on my hands anymore. A lot of them are in it to cut as deep as possible, also known as hurt people financially as badly as they can. Traffic cops have that the worst. Most of them cite that as their reason to join the traffic cops since with traffic laws, the rule of innocent until proven guilty doesn't apply. It's actually the other way around. You are guilty of a traffic violation unless you can prove you weren't. And traffic violations are almost always solved with a fine, quickly racking up the sum. Which, in reality, doesn't solve anything. You're just messing people over. I, along with some others, got spat out and bullied by the rest of the department for reporting a colleague for repeated excessive violence. I'm not talking a slap too many, which would be bad enough, I'm talking deliberately coercing people to fight him. I'm talking choking people out. I'm talking dragging a guy with bust knees across the pavement. I'm talking beating some guy while already in cuffs in the back of a van. But we're the bad guys for reporting it. Another thing I badly hate are the repugnantly hypocritical drug laws. If people want to toke up, let them toke up. But no. A superior officer once saw a guy smoking a joint at his own front door. A total of six patrols, totaling 12 officers including myself, were sent to deal with it. I was so ashamed and embarrassed. Not to get too sidetracked, but I don't think drug use or addiction should be criminal at all. We shouldn't encourage it as a society and practice sensibilization or dissuasion. But again, it boils down to picking repression and messing people over actually helping people. I could not take that anymore. While I still work the police, I now do so in a department that doesn't work in repression. It's boring as anything and I earn a lot less, but at least I don't feel like I have to sell my core morals and be a bogeyman on a good day or a monster on a bad one. Are all cops bad people? As people, no. There are still co-workers I regularly hang out with, keep in touch with and who feel the same way. But the job necessitates you being a bastard. And those who are seen as the best at this job, are oftentimes the biggest assholes in my eyes. I've worked with a lot of rookies. You can roughly split them into two groups, those who are already assholes and are in it so they can be their asshole self. And those who start, naive, with the intention to help people. That second group usually either turns asshole or quits soon after joining. I will say I still feel disgusted by the uniform I still have to wear. It feels like I'm wearing a costume, it's not me. I'm wearing the uniform of an organization I largely don't agree with. It tears me apart and honestly has a big mental toll on me. The person who I have to be is radically different from who I am. I don't feel like a cop, but still have to do police work. The sad reality is, I need the money. It also causes me to feel absolutely zero connection or responsibility towards my employer, only towards the customers I work for. Otherwise, I don't care. This turned into way longer of a rant than I intended, for which I apologize. I also fear it's a lot of whinging and complaining from poor me, poor cop. But it does feel good to get off my chest. Somebody replied, "You're not alone in feeling like this." I had a very similar situation. I joined the police to help people and have a career I could be proud of after a useless degree and bad educational choices. I lasted a year and by the end of it my mental health was so bad, I never spoke to anyone. All my family were concerned. My partner was always worried too. Constantly taking sick leave because I dreaded going in and being that bully of an officer. Especially as a newbie where you have to listen to your elders and sergeants. Even had the situation of getting in trouble for not helping another officer assault a civilian unprovoked. After I left I spent about 8 months in my room and therapy to regain social ability and actually be able to look for a new job, but now that I'm in a new workplace my life and mental state are infinitely better. The whole police ecosystem is toxic and I urge you to get out of it entirely because at the end of the day it's just a job and it's not worth the mental toll. You deserve better. Find a place where you can actually make a difference and help people. Thank you for listening. What did you think of today's stories? Did the last one make you see people differently? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe for more content just like this.